Get out, you worthless wife who can't even do household chores. I sat on the floor, braided and belittled, while my mother-in-law glared at me. I've got Mauricio and my mom. We don't need you. You always look so miserable. You are just a parasite. My sister-in-law, who never lifts a finger around the house, said with utter disdain. Wait a minute, Morris, I began, but before I could finish, even my husband, Mauricio, looked down on me. My mom and sister are right. I don't need a wife who can't handle housework while working. Besides, I've got a young part-time girl who's much better. Pack your bags and leave, he said, standing by his words. All three of them began to berate me, calling me a failure over a wife. I clenched my fists, feeling exploited. How dare they? Just you wait, I'll make sure you all get what's coming to you, I thought angrily. But as I looked at the three of them without changing my expression, I said, Fine, I'll live. The downfall of the family that's been dumping everything on me begins now. My name is Eleanor. I'm 32, a working housewife. Most women work after marriage these days, and I've continued to work at the company I joined after graduating college because I love my job. One morning, as I was busy getting ready for work, Mauricio spoke up. Hey, Eleanor, can you handle this? Tax season is coming up, he said, handing me a pile of receipts and invoices. Again? You should handle your own shop accounting, I replied. Mauricio looked away. You know I'm better at that stuff, so please. I married Mauricio 5 years ago. He used to work as a clerk at a restaurant that I occasionally stopped by. After several dates, we decided to get married. Now, Mauricio runs his dream cafe, but he leaves all the tedious tasks like procurement and accounting to me. As I headed for the door, my mother-in-law chimed in, Eleanor, I want Chinese food tonight. All right? Can you prepare the ingredients? No way. You can do it when you get back. Also, Vivian and the kids are coming this weekend. Make sure you prepare something they can eat. I replied, feeling the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. Reluctantly, I replied and left the house. When we got married, I had hoped to live just with Morris. However, he insisted that we live with his mother because he was worried about her living alone. So we moved into his spacious family home. My mother-in-law is terrible at housekeeping, and the place was a mess when we moved in. She lives on a pension and spends most of it on eating out because she doesn't want to cook. Marissa always says housework is a woman's job, so even though I work, I'm stuck doing all the chores for the whole family. On top of that, my sister-in-law, Vivian, who's moved out since getting married, often comes back home with her kids. When she's here, the workload increases. This morning, when I heard she's coming back this weekend, I thought, oh, not again. And then the dreaded weekend arrives. I'd love to relax on my weekends off from work, but instead, I have to entertain Vivian's kids and prepare meals. While I'm running around, Vivian drops a bombshell on me. Eleanor, by the way, I'm getting divorced and moving back here with the kids next month. Just so you know. What? Are you serious? Got a problem with that? She challenges. No, that must be tough for you. When are you moving back? I ask. As soon as I can, she replies. Initially taken aback, I reconsider. Vivian used to be a housewife, so she'll probably help around the house. That should lighten my load a bit. Though we're not particularly close, I look forward to having less work and go about my days. But I soon realize my optimism proved misplaced. Vivian, like her mother, does absolutely nothing. She lounges around all day, watching TV and snacking. She neither works nor does housework. Apparently, her neglect of household duties was a major reason for her divorce. Now I have to do all the chores, including making meals for her picky kids and getting them ready for kindergarten. As time passes, my job gets busier with a new project requiring more overtime and early starts. The house becomes increasingly messy. Coming home to a chaotic house is utterly disappointing, and yet everyone keeps asking, "When's dinner?" or "You're so slow." To make matters worse, I start getting passive-aggressive comments from Vivian and my mother-in-law. Eleanor, the laundry is piling up. Just because you work doesn't mean you can slack off. My mother-in-law scolds. But I'm busy too. As I try to argue, Vivian cuts in, talking back to your mother-in-law. You're so bold, Eleanor. And you've been buying all the meals. That's not good for the kids. If you're home, can't you help out a bit? What are you saying, Mauricio? Vivian adds, as a business owner, you don't have to work. You're just doing it out of selfishness. So fulfill your duties as a wife perfectly. I was rendered speechless, and both of them looked at me as if it was all perfectly normal. That night, I was so angry I could explode, so I talked to Mauricio. I'm busy with work, and neither your mom nor your sister is helping with the housework. You're not bad-mouthing my mom and sister, are you? Mauricio glared at me. I replied in amazement, no, that's not it. But I can't handle all the housework by myself. If you could help me a little. I'm busy running a business. You might not understand because you have an easy office job, but running a business is hard. Besides, housework is a wife's job, isn't it? Don't expect me to do it, he retorted, then went to sleep, leaving me to stew in my thoughts. But then an idea came to me. I quickly grabbed my phone and made some online purchases before going to sleep. A few days later, a bunch of new appliances arrived. A new washer-dryer, a cleaning robot, and kitchen appliances with automatic cooking functions. If no one's going to help me, I might as well make my chores easier with some handy gadgets. As the delivery guys were bringing in the washer, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law showed up. You bought a new washer without asking. The old one still works, but it's old, and this will make laundry faster and easier, I explained. What's all this? A cleaning robot and cooking appliances? My mother-in-law summoned me to the living room, where they were sitting on the sofa, and I was told to sit on the floor. Mauricio was there too, sitting next to his mom, looking smug. What's going on? I asked, confused. What do you mean? What's going on? You bought all these lazy gadgets with the household money. What are you thinking? My mother-in-law shouted. I thought it would make housework more efficient. I defended myself. It's not about efficiency. People these days rely too much on machines. My sister-in-law chimed in. Exactly, Eleanor. And those are luxury items. The appliances we have are still usable. You're just being wasteful because Mauricio is a business owner. She added, glaring at me, and Mauricio nodded in agreement. But I was just trying to make life easier for myself. Can't you even do housework properly? I countered. I wanted to say, look who's talking, but I kept quiet. Finally, my mother-in-law, perhaps frustrated by my silence, snapped, if you can't even do housework properly, you should just leave. I looked at her in shock, and she glared back at me, saying, we don't need you. Mauricio and I are fine without you. You always look so tired and miserable. You're just a parasite. My sister-in-law spoke in a tone that suggested she was fed up. Wait a minute, Mauricio, your mom and sister are being way too harsh. I turned to Mauricio for his support, but he looked down on me and said, they're right. I don't need a wife who can't handle housework. I stared at Mauricio in disbelief, but he just smirked. I'm a business owner, and I can do whatever I want with my money. I don't need a wife who spends it to make her life easier. Why would you say something like that? Besides, I've been getting along well with a young part-time worker. She's cute, unlike you. Pack your bags and leave. Stunned by Mauricio's words, all three began to berate me, calling me a failure of a wife. I clenched my fists in anger. After exploiting me all this time, they dare to say this. Just you wait. I'll make you regret this. But I kept my composure and said, fine, I'll leave. Good, we'll be better off without you, my mother-in-law spat out. I silently stood up and placed something on the table. Mauricio, let's get divorced. It was a pre-filled divorce application. As a sort of talisman, tired of everything, I decided, fine, I'll sign it, but don't regret it later. Mauricio signed the papers, and I packed my bags, moving to a weekly apartment that same day. No one came to see me off. I submitted the divorce papers to the city hall and rented a condo. Around the same time, I accepted a promotion I had been refusing due to housework and became a department head. Advancing my career, which I had almost given up on, I became more and more immersed in my work, thrilled that no one was there to hinder me more than anything else. I was overjoyed. About a week after leaving, my former mother-in-law started calling, but I was busy and had no desire to talk to someone who had called me a worthless wife. I continued to ignore her calls. A year later, on a day off, she called again. Thinking it was time to settle things, I answered, "Hello." "Eleanor, you finally answered. How could you ignore me for over a year?" "What do you want?" she inquired. "Well, how are you doing? Are you okay?" Her probing questions seemed insincere. "I'm doing great, working hard in my own apartment. I've been promoted and my salary has increased. I'm living comfortably," I replied straightforwardly. "Is that so? Would you consider coming back?" Her tone was almost pleading. "Why now?" I asked, shivering. "We're in trouble. We're running out of money." I couldn't help but smirk as I responded, "Oh, Mauricio's shop isn't even making an $11,000 profit, huh? And neither you nor your daughter work, so that makes sense." "Eleanor, you knew?" she asked incredulously. "Yes, I knew. Mauricio's cafe was only making about $800 a month in profit. I was the one handling the finances, so of course I knew. Mauricio, who acted like a big-shot business owner but didn't do any proper management or customer service, probably had no idea. Of course I knew. I was the one doing all the accounting and inventory," I explained. "Why didn't you say something?" she questioned. "I had no idea you were a manager at a big company and contributing so much to our living expenses," I replied. "Yes, I was putting in over $3,000 a month. That's how everyone was able to live. I had been supplementing the family income with my own salary because I knew Mauricio's shop wasn't making much. Mauricio probably realized he couldn't make ends meet without my income only after I left. Please, Eleanor, come back. By the way, what happened to Mauricio's shop?" she asked, ignoring my former mother-in-law's plea. "Mauricio's shop is going under next month. Even the part-time girl left him. That figures with such sloppy management. He can't keep a business running, and he's too proud to do what needs to be done. No woman would want to be with a man like that." I chuckled, and my former mother-in-law was at a loss for words. "Can we wrap this up? I'm busy," I said, hurriedly continuing. "Also, the house has been a mess since you left." According to her, the house was in chaos because no one was doing any housework. The house was cluttered, no one was cooking, so they had to buy food, and they couldn't even afford a new washing machine. "It would have been nice if you left those appliances," my ex-mother-in-law said. "What are you talking about? When those lazy appliances? And what's wrong with taking things that I pay for?" I retorted, regretting my outburst. But I never thought the house would become like this just because no one was doing their part. Hitting a bit irritated, I asked, "Isn't it strange that 3 adults can't manage the housework? What are your daughter and Mauricio doing?" She lowered her voice. "Well, Mauricio is sulking at home all day, doing nothing since he found out his shop isn't making any money. Really, he said he could do whatever he wanted with his money because he's a business owner. And Vivian won't work, no matter how much I tell her. She doesn't do housework, and she even asks me for pocket money for herself and her kids. My pension is running out." "Really? Your daughter told me she didn't need me because she had you," I said coldly. My former mother-in-law tried to butter me up again. "Please, Eleanor, my pension isn't enough for the 3 of us anymore. I have no intention of going back to that house. Your children are quite the parasites, aren't they?" She was speechless. As I was about to hang up, she continued, "Eleanor, we'll change our ways. Please come back. Let's all live happily together again, okay? Live happily with a worthless wife." I cut her off, saying, "We are family. Help us. We can't even pay the property taxes anymore. We'll have to sell the house. I have neither the obligation nor the desire to help you figure it out yourselves. Goodbye from your worthless wife." Ignoring her ongoing wails, I hung up and blocked her number, sipping my coffee in my clean apartment. I chuckled. 3 months later, I happened to pass by Mauricio's cafe. It had become a vacant storefront. It seemed he really had gone out of business. Even their family home was listed as sold. According to a former neighbor, I ran into the 3 of them, who had sold the house and fled, now living in a cramped apartment nearby. They were a constant neighborhood nuisance, always fighting and even sticking up the place. Complaints were piling up. All they had to do was work hard and take care of their home without relying on others. But they didn't, which was so like them. I looked at their former home with detached eyes and walked away. Since then, I've been focusing on my work. Recently, a sincere and hardworking colleague confessed his feelings for me, saying, "I love how dedicated you are to your work. We are dating with the intention of getting married. I don't think my next marriage is too far off, and this time I'm looking forward to grabbing hold of happiness."